You know what I've noticed? Always when I sit down, I do like this. Or when I get up, it's like, ugh. That is something that old people do, not something that a 30-year-old guy should do. Anyway, today we're going to talk about why I bought a Sony mirrorless camera instead of a DSLR. The camera that kickstarted my whole photography interest was actually a Nikon D300S DSLR with 12.3 megapixels, if I remember correctly. And the fun thing is that I borrowed that from a friend for 3 years. And I actually bought lenses for that camera without even having a camera of my own. That's kind of funny. But after those 3 years passed, I eventually had to return the camera to my friend because lending a camera to a friend for 3 years is quite some time. But anyway, thank you for the loan. As I was starting this channel, I wasn't actually that into videography, and that is why I bought the Nikon D500, because it was a really good camera when it came to photos, but it's probably one of the absolute worst cameras that I've used when it comes to videos. As I was starting to shoot more and more YouTube videos, I realized that if I wanted to develop my skills and be able to create better content, then I actually needed to buy a new camera. And that is when I decided to buy the Sony a6300 after reading a lot of reviews on it. I was so damn impressed by the performance of the Sony a6300 that I still think it's one of the absolute best cameras that you can buy in that price range. And I do know that the a6400 has been released, but I don't think that the features that they added to it makes it worth upgrading if you're already owning the Sony a6300. But if you're considering buying a new camera, then you should definitely go for the a6400, and that is mainly because it's always better to have the latest technology that you can have in your camera to make sure that you can future-proof yourself and don't have to buy a new camera every single year. So I was using the Sony a6300 for, I think it was like 6 months, and it was so damn good. And I really liked all the different functions that the camera had, so I decided to trade in my D500 and buy a Sony full-frame mirrorless camera instead. And at first I went for the Sony a7R II because I managed to get a really good price on a used one, but it wasn't as good as the a6300 when it comes to like autofocus and video performance, so I didn't have it for that long before I actually traded that camera in and bought the Sony a7R III instead, because I wanted to have something that was way better when it came to video. And the Sony a7R III is my favorite camera that I've used ever, and if you want to watch a review of that, you can do it right here. It's a really good one. So the reason that I didn't buy another DSLR is that I feel like the technology is starting to become really outdated if you compare it to what a mirrorless camera is offering today. I mean, if you're looking on the market right now, then you got Sony, which has really good mirrorless cameras, and you got Canon and Nikon that recently released their own mirrorless cameras, and they have Panasonic and Fuji, which is basically only focusing on the mirrorless market right now. Being able to see how your image actually is going to turn out in your camera before you take it, that is just amazing. Personally, I think it helps me reduce the amount of bad images that I take, and instead help me streamline my workflow to take better images and give me a better understanding of the whole exposure triangle much faster than a DSLR. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to have a tool that helps you do your job faster, better, and much more accurate? Another thing that I like, especially with the Sony mirrorless cameras, is the form factor. They're really small if you compare it with a big chunky DSLR. And I know that there's probably a lot of you thinking about the whole ergonomics thing, but personally I have never ever felt the need for a bigger camera when I've been out shooting. But I guess it also depends on what kind of things that you're shooting and how much you're actually holding the camera. Another great thing is all the insane amount of technology that you get in such a small camera house. I mean, in the Sony a7 III you get the 699 focus points, you got the 4K video, you got 120 frames per second, you got the IAF, which is completely insane. But the absolute best part, according to me, is that you're able to actually get new functions added into your camera through firmware upgrades. That is fantastic. A DSLR is probably going to be the most affordable option for you if you're just starting out, because there's just so many lenses for all the different systems out there that are available for a reasonable price. Because the biggest downside that I've experienced with the mirrorless cameras is the insane pricing on the lenses for these cameras. But the good thing is that there is some companies like Tamron and Sigma that is starting to produce some lenses for the mirrorless systems now as well. So the initial cost is not going to be as high as it has been to enter the mirrorless market. I do know that there's probably a lot of different opinions on this particular subject on what kind of camera system you should have and what not, and you probably got on the left side, I don't think that DSLRs are any good. And then on the right side you got, I do not like mirrorless. Mirrorless are really, really bad. I'm in between. I'm thinking like, if you can buy the camera that is best suited for you, then go for it no matter what the system is. But the reason that I went for a Sony Mirrorless camera is because I think it's the most future-proof camera system that is out there right now. So I'd love to hear your opinion on this and which camera systems you think are the best ones and why in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure that you do give it a thumbs up. It does make a huge difference, so thank you for that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you might want to consider doing that because, you know, that'd be appreciated. I also want to point out that if you want to buy any of the gear that I use in my videos, then you can use the affiliate links below. It doesn't cost you anything extra and it's really, really appreciated. So thank you for doing that. Until next time, take care.